Meet Joe, a hard-working man who owns a business of planting and selling trees for a living. Just like any other normal days, he's busy on his work, cutting some of the trees that had fully grown to a point where they need cutting in preparation to be sold. Everything is going well for him. He's even anticipating on expanding his business, for sales has been going up lately, something that he has been looking forward to for a long time. He finished up his work and took off at dawn. He's driving home in his pickup truck, concentrating on the road. That is before he suddenly noticed a roadblock ahead of him, with police lights flashing everywhere. He slowed down his car and gazed at a group of police officials ahead. He switched off his car, placed his hands on top of the steering wheel, ready to comply with the official who was going to approach him at that point. An old white sheriff approached him and they exchanged greetings. The conversation initiated. The sheriff did not want to waste time and went straight to the point. Told Joe there was a murder that was committed and you are the accused in this murder. Joe denied having knowledge of the murder, but the sheriff was not convinced. The sheriff plainly told Joe, you were going down for this, brother. Joe was shocked, for he saw that the issue was getting tense. And he might be in real trouble at that point. He tried to reason with the sheriff, explaining where he was coming from, but the sheriff was not buying any of that. Forcibly opened Joe's car's door and grabbed him out of the car, placed him at the side of the bonnet and arrested him at that point for the murder. Just like that, somebody's life can change in an instant. What started off as a good day could end up in tragedy. It could be you, it could be me. And it's really crazy and scary at the same time. What's up, family? It's Silas here. And I created this channel to touch on issues like these, legal issues, especially spreading knowledge to the people that really needs it. You know, one of these days you might find yourself in this situation and you don't know what to do. So on this video today, I'm going to be talking about the legal rights that an arrested person has, you know, when they are waiting to go to a criminal trial. With that said, stay tuned, watch the whole video until the end of it so that you can hear all of these rights that could be helpful to you one of these days. Peace. So get it right into the video. At most, we are going to define a couple of legal terms that are used in law for us to be able to articulate this video in a more simpler way for the easy understanding of these rights. On top of that, I'm going to articulate this content using the law of different legal systems. Initially, I'm going to look at the criminal law in India, and I'm also going to look at the South African criminal law, as in the constitution and the legislation thereof. Okay, so now we're going to give a definition of the word arrest. This should be the initial point for us to be able to understand and to know where these legal rights that an arrested person has comes into play. Arrest is defined as the apprehension of a person by legal authorities, which results in the denial of his or her rights and liberties. The arresting of a person is done because one will be or is being suspected or accused of having broken the law through his or her conduct, and that individual has to go through a criminal trial in a criminal court where the matter will be determined through the application of the law by a court of law or a tribunal in order to pass a verdict by the judge. With that said, a person is said to have been arrested when he or she has been detained by the legal authorities. These authorities could be the police acting on behalf of the government, and these results in that individual having some of his or her rights and liberties having been violated. For instance, the right to freedom. One cannot have freedom to move around when you are in holding cells awaiting the commencement of a trial. And in general, they are human rights. that are afforded or that are provided for, or those that with which we are entitled to. And these human rights are, in simple terms, the fundamental freedoms and protections that belongs to every single person, regardless of which gender, nationality, religion, race, sexuality of an individual. Everyone is entitled to these fundamental freedoms and protections, and no one should have their rights arbitrarily infringed upon by the authorities or private parties. And this also includes individuals like Joe, who are or will be accused of crimes, awaiting the due process of a legal trial to take its course. So what happens is, there is an aspect in our law, or in law in general, specifically in the field of criminal law, that is called criminal justice. In simple terms, this aspect implies the justice that is due to the victims of a crime. This could be the family of the individual that has been murdered, or it could be anyone in general who becomes a victim of a crime and the need to have justice served on their behalf. Justice could mean anything depending from which perspective one is looking at it from. There has been a number of theories of justice that has been formulated by diverse philosophers, the likes of Immanuel Kant, John Rawls, and the likes. But for the sake of this video, justice in simple terms means a legal structure that is in the form of a system that is designed to judge in a general sense who should be given a benefit or who should be given a burden when the law is applied to a person's factual scenario. To explain this further, we can look at our story that we had at the beginning of the video, where Joe was arrested. In that case, the family of the victim wants the person who committed the murder to be brought to book for committing such a crime, for the need solace, for the unexpected death of their loved one. But on the other hand, the person who has been arrested could be an innocent person, more specifically in regards to the crime he or she is being accused of committing. And that explains why we use the term accused when an individual has not yet gone through the full trial in a court of law for the determination of whether he or she is guilty or not. This justice is achieved through having fair and proper procedures used to determine criminal liability. By having fair and proper procedures in place, the ultimate aim will be to limit or infringe certain rights and freedoms of individuals who are suspected of crimes, or those who are charged with the crime, or those who are convicted, sentenced for criminal behavior. Now it becomes clear that when a crime is committed, we would have been presented with the interest of two different types of people in the context of our topic, and with them being in the picture and also having different interests. That is the interest of the victim wanting the criminal to be brought to book, and the interest of the arrested person in regards to the crime that he or she is being accused of. That individual has to go through a fair trial where the law is impartially applied to a set of facts at hand in order to come up with a fair outcome. There should be an equilibrium in the way the criminal justice system adjudicates on allegations similar to those. And this is done by taking into account the rights of every individual, and these rights flows from the victims to the perpetrator or the arrested person. Despite being arrested for unlawful activities and actions, the arrested individual exercises some rights in his favor, although those rights are not the same and are in a more limited form compared to the rights of a non-offender would be able to exercise. With that, let us look at the legal rights that are available to an arrested individual the moment one has been arrested. Number 1. According to Article 9 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, no one should be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. This implies that when legal authorities are exercising their powers and enforcing the law, there should not be any unreasonable use of force in the apprehension of a person or individual, and everyone is entitled to a proper treatment with dignity, regardless of being a suspect or an accused when being arrested. Number 2, the right to remain silent. Every individual that has been arrested has the right to remain silent. This right entails the fact that one cannot be forced to give information upon his or her arrest, especially information that could be to his or her disadvantage, for it could be used as evidence against that particular person in the court of law during his or her trial proceedings. Number 3, according to the Indian Code of Criminal Procedure enacted in 1973, in Section 50, subsection 1, states that each law officer or other person arresting someone without a warrant shall forthwith communicate to him or her full particulars of the offense that he or she is arrested for, or other grounds for such arrest. So this section simply enlightens us that the individual being arrested, specifically by a police official who does not have a warrant of arrest, that they have the right to be informed of the reason why they are being arrested. It would be a violation if a police officer arrests you and not inform you in regards to why they are arresting you. Number 4, we're looking at the Indian Constitution, Article number 225. It states that nobody who is arrested shall be detained in custody without being informed as soon as possible of why that person is being arrested, nor shall be denied the opportunity to consult and to be defended by a legal practitioner of his choice. This particular provision simply states or implies that upon arrest, constitutionally in different legal systems, one has to be informed about the grounds for the arrest as soon as possible, without delay, why they have been arrested, and also provided the opportunity to consult and to be defended by a legal practitioner of his or her choice. He or she has to promptly be informed of this right, and most legal systems allows for the provision of a state lawyer to individuals who cannot afford one themselves. This is done in order to attain justice impartially, for the legal procedures can be so complicated, especially for laymen. And if a person is not represented by a legal practitioner, it could be detrimental on their part during litigation. Number 5, one is a right to challenge the lawfulness of the detention in person before a court, and if the detention is unlawful, that individual has a right to be released. This is the reason why one is provided with a lawyer to have the case at hand adjudicated justly on the quest to serve justice by the courts. This also has a bearing to the 48 hours that is needed for one to be brought before a judge after being arrested, and to apply for a bail. That is, if the person is eligible to apply. Anything more than 2 days would be unlawful according to certain legal systems, South African legal systems for instance. Number 6, when arrested, one has a right to conditions of detentions that are consistent with human dignity. This means that when one is arrested, human rights comes into the fore, in the sense that one is entitled to conditions of detention that are consistent with human dignity, including at least exercises and the provisions at state expense of adequate accommodation, nutrition, reading, material, and medical treatment. So this implies that one can be in custody and still be having the vital aspects that are favorable to the arrested person. And one can be reading and having exercises and have a good place to hold them in whilst they are waiting for the criminal trial. Number 7, the last but not the least one, the right to appeal or review by a higher court. This right means that after trial commencement, the sentence has been passed and everything, an individual can challenge the judgment passed by a lower court in a higher court, hoping to have the outcome overturned in their favor. Usually the individual bringing the case will be the one in need of rectification, so they bring their appeal with the grounds on which they have to appeal on. Also, they can have the judgment reviewed if there were irregularities that could lead to the judge's recusal if found that there were gross irregularities in the way the case was handled by the judge. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for this video. If you have any questions, please comment down below. If you have other questions that you'd like me to touch on and bring a video on, you can also come through with that, and I'll definitely take a look at that. Peace.